Hiya, it's your friend SB here, and welcome to Season 11. The season where tuning is fixed and everyone is happy. Maybe not though. So let's have a chat. Let's have a yap. This time about characters. I bring to you the character design and implementation tier list. I am a bit of a game dev nerd. I didn't much fancy doing it professionally, but I do have a degree and I've been around competitive games for a very long time. So let's grade some homework. I'll be going over every character in the game and giving some feedback. Generally, people are not good at giving feedback. One look at the feedback channel of the official Discord will make that abundantly clear. So I've created a format that should make a good example for effective feedback. Whenever I go over a character, I will begin with the things that I like about them. This could be about how fun they are, how balanced they feel, the things that make me feel good and generally appreciate. Then we get into the negatives. This is the focus point of criticism. What feels unfun, whether it be playing against or as. Are they buggy? Do they need some balance changes? Or does their kit just plain suck? Finally, what people tend to jump towards, the better. How might you go about fixing the issues you've identified? This requires that you talk about what you don't like as context, but it's ultimately up to the developers to decide how they want to go about making changes to the things that you don't like. It's good to use it as a way of giving context to the problems you've identified, but it shouldn't be the main focus of your critique. Once I've gone over all the details, I will conclude by giving a final grading to that character. Consider A to be the characters that are in a pretty good spot, maybe use a couple of balance adjustments, but by no means a priority. B tier for the characters that are almost fine, but need some adjustments, nothing major. C tier are for characters that could use some significant changes, maybe mechanic overhauls, maybe new quirk skills, maybe something that needs to be addressed before they feel like an honest character. And then there's D tier, which just basically just throw it out, start again, there's no way to make this work. It's gonna be a long one, so feel free to use the chapters to skip around if there's anything you're particularly interested in. While I have tried to get some others' opinions, I don't have a broad understanding of every character in the game. Feel free to give your perspective in the comments and maybe we'll come back to this topic one day. Okay, let's get into it. For our very first character, we will be talking about Assault Deku. He has a very simple design, as you would expect from the very first character in the game, and if you've ever played a sort of battle royale or shooter games before, you can expect to slip into this sort of playstyle quite nicely. He is a very ranged focus with lots of mobility that allows him to pursue his targets, with his added defense buff from his assault class keeping him in the fight even longer. And balance wise, this character is about as good as you can aim. You can hit your shots from very far back, and if you want to go even further, you can use a crouch shot to get a snipe shot. Snipe shots are very satisfying to use at range, but even up close, Deku can pull off some very satisfying combos. The Black Web isn't just used for mobility, it also allows him to pull in targets. Hitting one Black Whip allows him to chain some shots together, and then he can use a second Black Whip to continue that combo, leading to some very effective damage. Or he can chain it into a Beta. While his character is very good at what he does, everything is not all great. As an aim-focused character, one of the most important things is good crosshair alignment with the camera, which unfortunately in this game does not really exist. I'll go into more detail later. His alpha skill is really strong even when used very far away, and is just as strong when used close up. That means Deku is able to put on the pressure without even putting himself into any danger. When Deku uses his beta kick, there is some wind up at the start. You cannot change the direction after you press the button, so ideally you would think that you would have to use some sort of level of prediction, but unfortunately tracking just makes that entirely irrelevant. As long as the character is able to move around, the game will auto-target for you. I'm generally not a big fan of tracking for this reason. It tends to take the skill out of the game. And the final point is the special action. So whenever your teammate goes down, you can pick them up and then you can put them back down immediately for an instant revive. I generally don't like instant revives because I don't like it when there's no penalty for going down. Also, tell me if you've experienced this before. You're playing in a low rank game and your teammate just refuses to put you down. Take a look at the ammo for my special action right now and look how slowly it's going down. If the ammo went down faster, then they would have to put you down faster, right? Also know how quickly it comes back again. There's basically no point to having ammo on this. So how do we make this better? First of all, we add some actual fall-off damage to attacks. If you don't know what fall-off damage is, it's the idea that as you go further away from the target, you begin to do less and less damage. This generally does not exist in the game unless you're playing Present Mic. This is the only character that has any fall-off damage. As you can see from up close, I do about 78 damage, and then if I go really far away, I start to do less damage, 65, and eventually it's about half as much damage. I would also remove the tracking from beta so it feels more prediction based and you'll have more freedom as your movement. And I would also make a couple changes to the special action ammo so you eventually have to put your teammates down and then revive them the normal way. Overall, I would put Assault Deku into A tier. Going from one Deku into another, we have Strike Deku. What I really like about the way that this character is designed is that it does not feel too disfamiliar from the original design. Alpha has a ranged projectile attack, Beta is a close range attack, and Gamma is used primarily for mobility. But not just for mobility, as it actually has some practical use in combos. Instead of being a mid-range character, this is now a close to mid-range focused fighter. There are some combos that are very difficult to do that I just cannot do, but there are some that are very good at it. While he is primarily used for offense, there are also some defensive capabilities. This is now a wall. I also really like the way that the beta works in that the further up you are, the more damage it does as a shockwave. So grounded beta is often used as a combo starter, whereas the higher beta can be used for maximizing on damage. While I really like what makes him good, there are some problems that makes him a balanced nightmare. The aimed alpha, while it is normally a shotgun when unaimed, has way too much damage and too much range. Seriously, I can hit people from about this range, this far away. The down power is also very high, so I can hit someone at max range and then in that time I can close the gap. I find that makes him extremely oppressive and unfun to deal with. Combos are quite inconsistent because people can be launched at very inconsistent angles. See there, he just went straight into the ground. There was absolutely no way of doing a follow-up there. I find that the damage of Beta is quite high for being grounded. Look at that, it's like 215 damage. Whereas it really makes sense that to be used just as a combo starter, whereas this is mostly where the damage is going to come from. I feel like the damage distribution there is just not very good. Also, given the special action is exactly the same, everything I said before still applies. Ammo goes down too slowly and instant revives are lame. So how do we fix this Deku? Firstly, I would change the alpha so it has much more heavy fall-off damage. These will no longer hit as hard as they do. I would change the aim shot to have 3 bullets instead of 5. If you can imagine logistically, the way he's shooting out his bullets is like 1 bullet for each finger, and then if you focus on 3 bullets on the middle 3 fingers, it is stronger. So it can have a bit more damage to compensate, but it would still have less down power, so you can be quite less oppressive. And of course, he could use some general fix-ups. For example, the wall is apparently not terribly consistent in blocking off damage. And of course, you know, making the beta feel quite more consistent. That was a lot of airtime just now. Overall, while I really do like Strike Deku, I can't put him in A. He deserves better than C, so I'm gonna put him pretty mid B tier. Next up, we've got Strike Bakugo. This is a character that is really fun, with lots of mobility from special action and high damage from his combos, which are very satisfying to pull off. And with the recently added double howitzer, this gives him a lot more presence, making him a great massive threat. His alpha is very interesting, the way it's able to pierce through walls, which I would love to praise even more, but unfortunately it has some glaring issues. You see, the alpha has some problems. Whenever you shoot, it goes at very unexpected angles, even if you can see very clearly what you want to be aiming at. But as you move further back, it starts to get slowly and more accurate. And the reason this happens is because of bad camera alignment. I will go into more detail after this. Things that I do not like about Strike Bakugo is the way that howitzer works. Sometimes, depending on the circumstances, the last hit of howitzer will not always hit. Things I would make better is to try and turn howitzer into a grab so it's more consistent, and to improve camera alignment so you can more easily hit your shots. Overall, I would play Strike Bakugo very comfortably in A tier, probably at the top of A tier. But what does good camera alignment look like? It's time to go on a tangent. Welcome to Overwatch. With the recently released Stadium mode, there is now a possibility to play with a third-person camera. But there is also the option of playing in a first-person camera as well, so now we have the option of switching between the two. First-person camera is always the superior way of aiming because the projectile will always go in the direction that you're aiming. If my crosshair is slightly to the right of the opponent, then it will always go to the right, and the left, and above, and below, no matter where you're firing from. But when you go into third-person mode, things get a little bit more tricky, and the reason is because the camera is no longer aligned with the origin of the projectile. Whenever I fire a projectile, it's always firing from a particular location. And good crosshair alignment is when the projectile spawns in a relatively close position to the crosshair. That way it is always consistent. If you had perfect crosshair alignment, then the crosshair would always be over the character's head, which would make it very difficult to hit your shots, which is why we have a third-person shoulder perspective. But what makes this better from Ultra Rumble is because there is at least an attempt to make them somewhat aligned. The vertical alignment is almost perfect, and in any case in which it is not possible, there's always going to be an indication on the screen saying there's something blocking your shot. When I change into first person mode, I can see that I can no longer see the target. The horizontal alignment is unfortunately just always an inevitability. I cannot hit this target, and if I do try to move my crosshair slightly to the right, I end up hitting the wall to the side of me. But as soon as I turn into first person perspective, I now have a very clear shot. Please look at this clip in which I'm trying to shoot the All Might. Even though my crosshair is above him, my projectile is hitting below him. That's because it's trying to draw a line from the spawn point of the projectile to the point where my crosshair is. See where it overlaps? The line it draws tries to go through the ground, and so the projectile always hits the ground. Overwatch doesn't have an aim mode function universal to all characters like Ultra Rumble does, but there are some cases where the alt fire will work as an aim mode, and in these cases it always reverts to a first person perspective, and as soon as you go out of it, you're back to third person. I think generally it makes sense for aim mode to always be perfectly aligned, just so you can, aim. And it is possible to do this without going into a first person camera. All you need to do is add some transparency to your character, as well as proper alignment. Alignment does not really matter as long as your crosshair is always on the target, which may be convenient for you if you're always playing with very strong aim assist, but realistically, as long as you have full control over your crosshair, this isn't going to happen. Ultra Rumble's aim assist is also kinda butt. We have Bakugo's alternate skill set, Rapid Bakugo. This is a very fun, high skill ceiling character, with lots of interesting combos, and a lot of versatility in movement. The special action being on both skill sets, it seems like it's well at home in this skill set as well, giving more access to specific movement rather than being restricted to horizontal or vertical movement. And flying around using the alpha to propel movement is also extremely fun, and a pretty unique way of doing movement. Alpha also makes for a good damage skill when used at effective range. While I do like the character in concept, I feel like the execution is severely lacking. Because what happens with these ammo costs is that you're just going to be spamming most of the time. Alpha is not constantly being used as a good offensive skill by most players, so you get 2 ammo for the Gamma, 3 ammo for the Beta, and people will use the Alpha in a bit of a combo, but you're really hard to hit, and it's just not fun to deal with. It's just another spam character because Biking can't figure out how to do ammo or reload times well. Also, I say Alpha's good at effective range, but have you seen how good the range is on this thing? I am doing max damage from this range. This is ridiculous. Range is about this much, and I am doing ridiculous amounts of damage for that range. That is stronger than Assault Deku, that is stronger than Strike Deku, and why? Why is this a thing? There's a little bit of randomness to it, which I don't appreciate. I very much prefer consistency. Like, I don't need a spray pattern, but I do need consistency. It used to be that the ammo for the Beta and Gamma was lower, and then they increased it, and that's been like my least favorite change they've ever done. So first of all, I would revert that to how it was at launch. And for the Alpha, we just need fall off damage, because this is dumb. Like, it's still a lot of damage up close as well. Like, maybe in the realm of like 90 damage is fine, but you shouldn't be able to do that damage from like all the way back here. And also, is a defensive move you're using at the same time. Like, that's just dumb. I'm keeping myself safe while doing stupid amounts of damage. I hate this character. I don't think he needs lots of changes, just some adjustments to make him a more honest character. Because I do not consider him honest, like, at all right now. So, I'll put him comfortably in B tier. Next up, we've got Ochaco Uraraka. Rapid. One of the first things that stood out to me about this character when I very first started playing this game is that flying around is very fun. Look at me, I'm a Spider-Man, except back then the alpha was very bugged and didn't work very well. But still, I'm a Spider-Man! So flying around is super fun, special action makes that even better because it's able to maintain your momentum. And the Gamma is super interesting utility. It's not just a damage skill, it's a utility skill that's able to trap opponents and allow follow-ups from your teammates, or yourself. While this is very cool utility, I can't help but feel it's a little bit strong. People will also be spamming the beta quite a bit more, and interestingly, this is a combo that is more viable when someone's got their shield up, which doesn't sound right to me. The main ways I would improve this character, first of all, take away some of this damage from the lift. It doesn't make much sense to me why a lift does so much damage, especially it does the exact same amount of damage as having all that rubble drops on your face. And also I think just to reduce some of the beta spam, maybe change some of the ammo just so you can throw less. Overall, I do really like this character. She's a bit strong in the meta right now, so I would turn down some of her damage, make sure that Gamma is mostly a utility skill, and also a potential trapping skill, because like this is really interesting if you use it as a trap, and no one does. So overall, I would place her probably high B. Let's have a look now at Assault Ochaco. She still has pretty good movement. I feel like you can't really take movement out of her design with her special action being the way it is. And using the beta for some movement is very fun. I don't disagree with the aspect of having good movement options on non-rapid characters, as long as there are proper restraints on it. I can tell Ochaco is designed to be more of an anti-air character, and her moveset complements that very well, with a gravity move to put people into the air. So if they won't go into the air themselves, I'll make them go into the air. Follow up with a beta, into a big alpha. Or the big swing if you can manage that. Ooh. Very satisfying. Making use of every single skill in her combo. Unfortunately, it's just ridiculous amounts of damage. Like, I understand the logic behind it. Object with large mass hits you, it's gonna hurt. But her numbers are just a bit too insane. I really like the design, it just needs some balance changes. Also the beta, I feel like this is too much movement for an assault character. What I think would be better is to make use of the special action, and also having some slower startup time on the beta's activation. So, activate special action, fly into the air, and then use the momentum to carry yourself even further. It does not need that much ammo. It just needs enough ammo to intercept someone as part of your anti-air combo. That's all. I also appreciate that it doesn't really work on GP, because it doesn't push anyone anywhere. Which is what GP should be done for, right? It's for meant to be like denying combos. And we'll get into more detail about combos in a bit. But overall, this is a very nice character. I really like the design, it's just the balance is a bit shit. So I'm gonna put a mid-high B tier. Who's up next? It's Shota! That's right, Endeavor. Character that's been around since the game's launch. Surely they've had a lot of time to get this character into a good spot, right? Well, they certainly made him fun with lots of very fun combos that you can do. Made it even easier with the recent buffs. And he also has a lot of versatility. He has good movement options for a character that doesn't even have like aerial movement. This is like specifically grounded movement, which is very different from how most characters seem to act, where everyone and their mother can fly through the sky. He could fight at range with Alpha, he can fight pretty mid-range with the Ice, and when he gets up close, he can of course do a Beta. So I love that he can effectively work at any sort of range, with different levels of effectiveness the closer he gets. Of course, Gamma Ice is very good for chaining things together, which is very much the end goal of a strike character. It is also a very good option for defense, because you can shoot for it but enemies can't. I've played him a lot, but I feel like the recent changes were maybe not what I would like. For one thing, they changed this gamma range so it's like crazy good. It no longer feels like a mid-range skill, it now feels like a long-range skill. It goes really fast so we can catch people very easily. I would have made that change. I also don't really like the beta animation change. I appreciate that it comes out faster as a good like defensive option, but I don't like that there's just like no vulnerability at the end of it, at least. One quality of life change I've always wanted is the ability to cancel out of the gamma movement at any point, just so you can climb walls a bit easier. Less of rubbing my face up against walls when I just want to climb. And of course, the special action is one of the most useless skills in the game. So what needs to be better? Well, first of all, I think the balance changes have not been very good. This character is a bit too strong now, when really the ceiling should be lowered, and more space for skill expression preferably. Like 120 damage for that gamma is ridiculous, considering how fast it is and how unavoidable it can be. I think there needs to be a new sort of burn system. I've gone over my idea for this before, which is a burn intensity level. The more fire you stack onto someone, the more damage over time that they'll take, and over time the intensity goes down. So you're not just being rewarded for hitting someone with the initial damage, but also how much you're hitting them with the burn damage. And special action can also benefit from that a lot by inflicting a lot of burn. Also, fun fact, if someone's burning and you use an ice ability, it actually stops the burn. The effect is still there, that's a bit of a bug, but that's how the interaction works. So I might put this character in A before, but now he's kind of gone down to a B, just because I did not like the changes they made. Let's get technical, shall we? So Tech Shoto to me seems like the power fantasy character, because Shoto has always been, like, in the source material, a very powerful character. This is like the power fantasy. This is Shoto at his strongest. And we like a bit of power fantasy as long as it's well controlled. Beta is super interesting, the way that it works as like an ice bridge, that you can chain multiple of them together, which is support for the team. And also talking about versatility, not only can you use it for direct damage, but you can also shoot it with Alpha for an explosion. That's the versatility I like to see. And it also has a lot of defensive versatility. If someone is in your face, you press Alpha and they get frozen. If someone's attacking you from afar, you throw out some Gamma, and the projectiles are negated. The problem is what's the niche? Is it just being able to do everything really well? He has so much ammo, so it doesn't feel like he's being restrained that much. It's not like the reload time is especially bad either. You're supposed to be spamming, and you can do that so much for like ridiculous amounts of damage. They keep hitting the Alpha with nerfs, but I don't think that's really harming what the character does. It just makes him worse designed. His defensive utility essentially makes him unjumpable, so there's not really like any counterplay to him. Like, you could try to wait out his cooldowns, but it doesn't matter because they're not even like particularly long and he has so much ammo. It just feels like a power fantasy character with all the strengths and none of the weaknesses. So how would I do it? First of all, I think that this Alpha shouldn't be knocking down as fast. Damage is good, but I feel like it also needs some hefty fall-off damage. If you had that reworked burn system, as I say, because it mixes some ice into this move, I feel like it shouldn't burn as much and just be more of like a dull blow. Maybe change the ice freeze amount so it doesn't immediately freeze someone. That way hitting a combo like this is actually very satisfying. And of course, just manage his ammo and cooldowns more so you don't just have to mindlessly spam moves. So because of all that, because I just feel like they can't get the direction right, I'm going to put this character into C. I don't think he's nearly there. I think they just need to get the design portion right, because they just do not seem to know what they're doing with this guy. Gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go fast, gotta go fast. This guy is really fun. All the movement tech you can do where you can just like go up a wall and then just like, hello wall, boing, I can fly. He's a really fun character with lots of interesting tech and high skill ceiling. The combo-based gameplay is nice and satisfying, but unfortunately, I've got my issues. He's been very strong for a very long time, so it's about time I knock him down a peg. First of all, I don't like long combos. Ideally, quick combos are the best thing because it allows people to get back into the fight and not just sitting back and waiting for your turn. Impressive speed is of course very hard to deal with the amount of airtime you can get by doing the wall jump techs. If we're just talking about wall jump, I think that this is maybe too fast. If the tech is fine, they just need to like nerf the amount of speed that you get from it. Beta is of course a move that has a ton of tracking. I've said what I don't like about tracking. Sometimes if I'm fighting like a Kurogiri, I'll press beta and he'll go for a portal and suddenly my beta will clearly be tracking onto him still, but I'm going in a completely different direction. Noticeably shifts my momentum. That's really weird. I think the beta armor is very strong because it's just kind of mindless. Like, oh, someone's going to attack me. I don't need to care. Just press the funny button and I win the interaction every time. Boom. I win. Easy game, easy life. And I just don't really like how reliant either players seem to be on Recipro. It's like, if Recipro isn't on, just don't fight. Like, it needs some more balance. So, what do I do about this? First of all, I think Iida's combo system needs some improvements. This is the very first combo character we'll be looking at, and I'm going to have some notes after this as well. But to make sure his combos feel nice and fast, I'm going to say limit the combo amount from 3 alphas down to just 2. And you can also reduce his ammo to compensate so he's less spammy with it. Less spammy than he needs to be. So now only 2 alphas work and that's your combo. Which means you're more incentivized to just do a quick combo like this. And also that's of course a nerf to his damage. Beta tracking, it would be very cool if it was more user controlled. So remove the tracking, but also to compensate, because the mechanics of Iida's beta is very interesting because when he's at the end of his lunge, he'll throw the kick out. But say if my crosshair is not on the target, then he's just gonna go around. I would make it so that if you hold down the button, he'll do the lunge, but as soon as you let go, he'll do the kick. I do like the idea of having armor on the beta, but really the way that you're supposed to do armored moves is to make sure that you only have armor during the animation in which the hitbox is out, which means that lunge gets none of it. I would make some changes to Recipro to make people less reliant on it, and the most important change is the way that animation speed works. I feel like this is a very lazy implementation to make the character feel stronger, and there are very dire consequences to doing it that way. Need an example? I got one for you. Oh, no spoilers though, Monoma, your time's coming. Also, Iida has a special action, which is the same as Deku. It's an instant revive, don't like that, you know, the same whole deal. Ammo down, instant revive gone. So overall, I think I would put Iida into C tier. He needs more than just a few adjustments to make him feel good, but the things that are good about him, I think are very good. He just has a few too many problems. So let's take some inspiration from the king of melee combat, and that is fighting games. Welcome to Street Fighter 6. Any fighting game will do, this is just the example I'm using because it has a lot of very cool stuff in it. Including this, the frame meter. And the idea of the frame meter is that when I press a button, it can show me the startup, hit frames, and recovery of every move. And when I hit my opponent, it also shows the hits done. And as you can see here, I have 4 frames of advantage, which means I'm able to act 4 frames before my opponent. But also, in Ultra Rumble, we have what we commonly refer to as shield, but it is referred to as guard points, GP. And that is very similar to when an opponent blocks the attack. And when that happens, the frame advantage is different. Now I am 1 frame behind. Their hit stun is greatly reduced. This does exist in Ultra Rumble, but the whole system could be a lot better. And I would like to see a lot more detail put into it to make combat feel really, really good. There are certain characters that feel like they should work really well with these sort of elements, especially Mount Lady. I've heard a lot of people say that main Mount Lady, that playing her is very much like a fighting game. These are fighting game fans, and they like to see these elements carried over, but the whole system I feel like doesn't support it. We'll get to that later. The next thing to talk about is attack cancels. So whenever I press buttons, I have to wait for the end lag or the recovery to finish before I'm able to press another button. But there are certain specific interactions that allow me to cancel one action into another when I hit. Specifically only when I hit. Because if I don't hit, I have to wait for that end lag to finish. But when I hit, I'm able to do a full combo. Hit cancels are very satisfying to make use of. In fact, this game even has the option to make your character change color at the moment that you can do an attack cancel. So using that inspiration, what could be done to improve the melee combat system in Ultra Rumble? Let's start off with hit stun. It seems to me that there isn't much consideration as to how much hit stun a move should apply. As a result, there's just a lot of moves that are very abusable. It's good that there's lots of options for combos, but they should at least be intentionally designed so that they're fun and healthy rather than slow and spammy. And the best way to make a combo feel intentional is through animation cancels. Animation cancels can also help certain moves feel weak when missed, while also feeling strong when hit. When you miss, there's going to be a certain amount of vulnerability that gives the opponent the chance to counterattack. The differences in hit stun when a character has GP or not can play a very important role because it determines whether a combo is true or not. That way there's a level of safety that prevents you from taking too much damage from combos, while also being a good indication for when you should go in for the kill. There's still so much room where depth could be added to the combo system to make the game feel a lot more interesting. Anything could be better than the system we have now, which is pretty fast and thoughtless. There are certain melee chains that are very spammable and easy to abuse. So if a character can't perform an additional melee without a hit confirm, then it might help with balancing the game. It should also be possible to add new kinds of attacks to give certain characters new options. Like Deku's melee attack has very little range, whereas characters like Twice have a lot of range. This move in particular almost feels like a dash attack. Could you imagine characters have a new kind of attack they can activate by sprinting and attacking? Maybe it's too much to expect, but I like the idea of it. It's time for the Froggo. So Floppy is a very balanced character, I would say. As a rapid, she moves around very fast, and it's very fun. She doesn't have like crazy combos like some of the other characters. In fact, her main combo is very simple. So many people would call Floppy a support character. She's less focused about doing lots of damage, but she's more about keeping people in check. But of course she has her support capabilities as part of her special action, which allows her to revive her allies. There is apparently some surprising depth to her combos where you're able to get a bounce with an alpha in between, but it's kind of difficult to do. There we go. So what about the bad? I mean, I don't really want to criticize Floppy that much. I guess it would be nice if her combos were a bit more consistent, but since it relies on the ground bounce. And people aren't like a big fan of how camo works just because it's kind of useless. Like, people can still see you and some tracking effects still go onto you. I think it's kind of fine-ish. It's not terribly useful, but it's something. So I think the improvements are just like make bounce more consistent, give camo some more effects, like you don't get targeted by tracking. As I say, I don't like instant revives. Maybe you can have a similar effect to the way that Kendo works, where she can pick people up and chuck them. I really like the idea that you can like pick someone up, throw them, alpha, pick someone up in the air, throw them, alpha again, you know, you can fly around like that, like juggling people. That sounds really funny. It might be weird to implement, but I mean, it's an idea. Overall, Floppy's a solid A rank. Can't complain. Alright, let's talk a bit about Denki. Now this is a character I really like, just because this is sort of my taste of character. Like, he's still a pretty good shooter. I really like characters that allow me to aim and zone and kite and all that. He's a trapper character, so he can put down live wires, just to get an unexpected win against the opponent. Really good for turning the tables. Getting a bunch of burst damage after a stun is very satisfying. So even if I enjoy him, I also agree that there's a lot that isn't great about him. First of all, Beta is kind of a useless skill because it's just kind of always outclassed by the Alpha. It has very niche use, but I feel like this is sort of like the all-out damage skill that we should be relying on for maximum damage. When your ammo runs out in Beta, you go into that short circuit state, and this is pretty much always avoidable. Denki, of course, does way too much damage off a simple hit confirm. Like, that's just crazy. You can pretty much 0 to death every character in the game. The double stun, as used in this combo, is very insane. Like, you should not be able to stun someone twice like that. And of course, it's a move with tracking. I don't even need to really aim, and Denki always goes directly towards the target. In fact, this tracking seems even stronger than most skills. This kinda sucks, because very similar to Deku, there is a wind-up to this move. If there's a level of prediction, then it separates the good Denkis from the great Denkis. Stuns are no longer free. And maybe little known fact, but you can actually control the movement while you're in the gamma charge, but specifically only when you're on the ground. Just so you can like redirect yourself to get that stun. So 0 to deaths are strong, and they're just a bit too easy. So what would be better? First of all, I would say that when you let go of the Beta, it should take like a chunk of extra percentage. After all, you do also get like a bit of extra damage when you end it as well, so it's not like out of place to have like an ending part of the effect. I especially do like to use the pushback it has at the end of the effect, just as like a defensive tool. Maybe changes ammo a little bit, maybe make it more damage very quickly. I don't know. That's not my job to balance it, just make it more relevant, please. Again, it's tracking, I hate that, remove that please. And also to get rid of the double stun. And then we have a character. So there's quite a few minor changes I would like them to make, which unfortunately places Denki into B tier. As much as I love him, it's just not healthy. But the general design is really good, and I love it. Okay, let's talk about Tech Denki. One of the most important things to know about this character is that he has a homing missile. This is a very control-oriented character where you want to have good positioning, which has a much more wide area focus than like locking down a building. Hitting that beta shot for close-up combat is very satisfying as well. A very good tech version of the original design, but of course I have some problems with it. First of all, this damage is ridiculous. Like, you hit someone once with all 3 shots and it's a guaranteed stun, which means that second shot is basically always free. So you're looking at 270 damage minimum off of 1 interaction. Hello? I probably have some tuning on. I think the aimed alpha damage is quite a lot as well. It's not that he doesn't deserve to do that much damage, it's just that it's a bit too free. Also, the way that the lock-on effect is quite exploitable. Have a look, I can do a full lock-on onto Toga, and I don't have to wait as long to do the whole lock-on again. I just need to look at someone and immediately click. All 3 shots, done. Why? Because it's not per target. There is essentially 1 charge rate, and as long as I'm holding down the button, it applies to everyone I can see. The indicator makes you think it doesn't work like that, but it does, and I've known this since day 1, and I want it fixed, please. What's the matter, not enough resources? So how would I improve Tech Denki? First of all, I've got some alpha-aimed mechanic changes I'd like to make. First of all, make it so it's actually working per character now. But also, in terms of skill, look at this like wide range I have, where I don't even need to necessarily have them like in the center of my screen to aim like you would any other shot. So I would say make the charge rate relative to proximity to center screen. So if they're on the edge of the screen, it charges very slowly, but if they're right in the center of the screen, it charges quite fast. As for the damage, I think this needs to be toned back a bit, and honestly, if the stun mechanics are going to make this too powerful, maybe just remove it. I mean, he still has opportunities of getting stuns off, right? He can still do this. This requires him to be close range. Yeah, it's kind of dumb. This is the tech character, remember? Not the strike one. So, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put Tech Denki into B tier. Okay, let's talk about Assault Kirishima. Now, this is very much a brawler type character. His main thing is, if you want to fight me, come get it. It's a brawler type character that doesn't lose to anyone. Because he's tough, he's beefy, he's manly. And unfortunately gets bullied by a lot of the cast. Why? Because very few of them are actually brawlers. Any character that focuses on range is going to have a big advantage. All of his moves feel very impactful, very strong. If this guy hits you, it's gonna hurt, and he's an assault character. But just because he does a lot of damage and a lot of it is very burst oriented doesn't mean that he should be a strike. This can still work absolutely fine as an assault character, because what matters most is he's resilient, and that special action really makes him what he is. Unfortunately, Kirishima has a few issues. One thing is that I find him to be very slow. Like, all of his animations feel very slow, especially at like the earlier levels. Like, that kind of makes him easy to run away from. And instead of being like a tough brawler type, he feels more like a bully to me, which is not manly at all. I'm not a big fan of this alpha ability. It doesn't feel particularly reliable, or it doesn't have the impact that the other skills have. And the mechanics of this gamma just kind of feel like they're a bit worse than what Strike Deku can do. Like this, while it does have a lot of shockwave, like it does not seem to really change based on height. Yeah, that's the same. Meanwhile, Strike Deku very much does. So it just kind of feels like a worse design. And let me tell you, this special action can feel very oppressive if you're against certain matchups. Like characters that have very slow startup movement, or characters with no movement at all. Like, how do you get away from this? Because fighting is obviously a losing battle, and any attempt you have to get away, we're just gonna get hit by another knockdown, and you can't really do anything. This is a bully character. The actuality of what he can do is in direct contrast to what you would expect him to do in his design. Good design makes good use of the source material. It makes you feel like you are the character. You should be getting an idea of what the character can do by, say, watching the anime. So how do we make this better? Well, first of all, I really don't like this alpha. I think this just kind of sucks as an alpha. What I would really like if it was more of like a jab sort of move, like, it's based on like Red Gauntlet, right? So why not just make it like a dash up jab sort of move? That makes it good for him to chase and pursue vulnerable targets rather than doing this, because this is like his main like movement tool. I just think he needs a better gap closer, and you can like combo it as well, have a bit of versatility. Like some moves have like follow-up aspects, right? So like this, for example, this is a follow-up. Just make it something like this, where you push the button again and something else happens. So like first is like a jab, and then there's the impact when you knock him to the ground. And you can like combo it together. You can do like jab into gamma, which I don't think it should be a true combo by any means, but it should at least be like a good pressure tool. Secondly, I think it should be easier to evade his attacks, because in some situations you just can't really get out of it, especially if you're stuck in a matchup. I think this is a character that isn't necessarily about chasing people down and being hard to escape from. this should be a character that will fight people. People that want to challenge him. This is the guy that is looking for those sorts of engagements. I would make a change to his beta similar to what I suggested for Iida, where it's like, if you hold down the button, then you have a lunge, but then if you tap it, then it's like a quick punch. That would probably help some of the problems. I think that just feels better generally as a mechanic. And similar to Iida, the armor he has, because he has like armor on like all of his moves, you can see he's got a yellow glow every time he uses a move. You should only really have armor on the active hit frames. That's the only suitable time for there to be armor. Make Gamma more powerful based on the impact. Not necessarily too powerful, but you know, just something that makes it feel different. And making dive bombs feel very satisfying. I don't think he has an active hitbox during his Gamma as well, so if there's someone like Airborne, you can maybe like smack him during the fall. And there should be something that gives other people incentive to actually fight him when he's got a special action on. So I would say, if you take damage during this, then it shortens the duration, the ammo goes down. Because Kirishima wants people to fight him, not run away from him. So I think that pushes the design in the right direction. It may feel like a nerf, but it's better design. So I've underlined all these problems, and that's why I'm going to be putting Kirishima Assault in C tier. It's time for Strike Kirishima. Now this character is actually pretty fun and very tough. Doing combos is very nice. Gamma works as a very cool anti-air tool, as well as a combo ender. So this is very much like a combo-oriented character, as May Strike characters are. But I have some issues with him. First of all, I feel like these combos, what they are, is kind of lame. I just kind of don't like the nature of these combos. Like, who's ever going to use this other than like as a starter combo? I feel like as the red drive, the driving is the most important part. This beta is really dumb. I really hate this, the way this move works. Just because one, the shield is entirely invincible. I would have expected like the transition this shield does, it feels like they were planning to make it like a tougher shield. Like, this is a little bit of health, so if you throw something at him at the same time, then it's gonna break the shield. But if you hold it, then it's even tougher, and then you can do the big slam. But instead, you just get this, and it's very spammable, and the AoE is absolutely massive, it does big damage, it just doesn't feel good ever. Also, this exists for some reason. I hate this. I hate that this is a thing because it gives him so much mobility. And this character is supposed to rely on his alpha for mobility. That seems to be what they were going for, but then no one uses it because there's a clear exploit in the game. I feel like the special action is very much like lacking in synergy with this kit. Like, yeah, maybe it makes him tougher so you can roll around and hit people. And he's got special action active, so it's harder to do. But like, no one's doing that if they can't even hit you because you're flying over their heads and you're going so fast. Just like, all of his moves are super oppressive and not fun to deal with. And I feel like his combos should have more consideration as to how they work. There isn't much of an execution barrier, they're just kind of easy to do. So I've got a lot of complaints of his character, not to mention he's, you know, just absurdly strong. So what would I do? Change the way that this beta works. I think this shield needs some health. As I say, this is weak health, this is large health, or, you know, moderate health. I think this slam needs to be a bit smaller, at least in range, so it only hits like people slightly in front of you. Because like, look at this range as well. What the hell? Like, what are we thinking, guys? This just beats out easily. Gamma is really spammy because it has so much ammo. And the alpha, which should be like the core part of its kit, because this is Red Drive Kirishima, is completely neglected. So overall, I think that the design of this character kind of sucks. I think the implementation just kind of sucks. And this character just kind of sucks. Is he a D tier character? Is he a C tier character? I think I can see what they were going for, but they just kind of failed. So I'm gonna put him low C. He's very close to being D, but I'm gonna put him low C just because I can see like some of the vision, but not a fan. Now for Momo Yaoyorozu, a personal favorite of mine. This character has a lot of very good tactical potential. As she has a Gamma, which is really good for like area control. She has Beta, which is a nice shield that can help her lock down a building. And special action has so many items that could drop out that could give her an advantage in the battle. Like, woo, 2 team heals, epic. She has Alpha with a stagger, and these combos are very, very satisfying. It's not too much damage, but I think it's absolutely fine for what it is. The beta charge, people don't really like it too much, but I think it has its uses, and I very much prefer the wall aspect of it. Hold on, check this shit out. I saw this in a video once. We run over here, we put the shield down, we go for a rapid card, and woo! Look at that. Ain't that cool? Yeah, I think this character's great, but it is not without faults. Fault number one, the alpha. I think this ranged dagger is very oppressive and not fun to deal with, especially if you're playing with lag, which, you know, some of us do. This just sucks, and especially in like the Momo matchup. It's like who can get the stagger off first. Sometimes they're staggering each other. I hate ranged staggers generally. If you're gonna have a stagger, it needs to be like a melee sort of hit, like this. Consider what I was saying earlier about melee combos and just like make this feel healthier. Momo is like completely useless at range. Like if there's a Nejire flying in the sky, I have hit her with a cannon shot before, but generally you're not gonna be able to do much. Like if Nejire sees a cannon, she can just fly out the way. It is kind of easy for her. That's not a matchup for you to win, it's for her to lose. Cannons, if they hit directly, are just, they kind of suck to deal with. Like someone can just like lose their entire life bar just because a cannon shot happened, and like I appreciate the value that cannons have, but I don't think they're always very healthy. And finally, the way that the special action works with the bag, it drops some items, but I feel like the item pool is a bit too small. You see all of these items over here? Some of them can drop from the bag. How many? Well, a bag can drop, and you have this, this, and this. Those are the item pools, but these are all of the items. Why don't we take all of the items and make them possible to drop? I would especially appreciate if some of these cards dropped. Doesn't that sound fun and tactical? For the alpha changes, I think if you're aiming in, maybe this should feel different. Like, say you're aiming at somewhere and then it fires a projectile that is smaller, but it goes further, and that should help Momo at least damage people. I don't like the stagger still, but it should help her at least not be completely useless. So just give her some range on this. As for the stagger, I think make the unaimed version no longer a projectile hitbox. And yes, this is a projectile. Compress can reflect it. That's weird. There's no melee aspect to this. So give it a melee hitbox, get rid of the range, just make it a up-close stagger. That way the combos are still possible, but now she's no longer super oppressive at range. And of course at range, as long as she has the range shot, then everything's fine. And finally, if you get hit by a cannon shot, that should be like an immediate knockdown, like all the time. Like it is meant to be like a crowd control tool, right? This is utility, not a damage skill. But also with the Gamma, when you fire it, it drops like the dolls, and they don't really serve much purpose. At some point they changed the damage to be more about the cannon shot, but if you ever hit one of these like small dolls, and it is very rare that you actually do that. Like I'm trying to do it on purpose right now. I'm having a hard time. There we go, 55 damage. That is nothing really. Using compress as an example, when I fire an alpha, there's an explosion when the object hits the ground. See? Like make that feel relevant. So overall, design, really cool. Implementation could be better, just like lean towards that design a bit more, and that would just be like peak game design. But for now, she's gonna have to go in B tier. Time for All Might. And this is like buff guy All Might. This isn't even like weak guy. This is the #1 hero, right? So if there's any character you want to feel like a power fantasy character, it's gotta be this guy. And you know what? I think he does a good job at that. With his very powerful moves, and even a defensive option, this is very much a power fantasy character. But he wouldn't be a balanced video game without some ways of restraining him. These alpha shots are so powerful that he even has a little bit of splash damage. The beta is super satisfying to hit, and you can combo it. Whether it be beta into beta, or just beta into an alpha. Gamma is super cool as a defensive move since it has projectile negation, and it has a bit of combo potential. And of course, the special action gives him a lot of presence as he can zoom around, and he's always going to be the first one into the fight as a result. All Might has a really cool design. But is that appropriate for this video game? Well, let's talk about that a bit more. First of all, alpha can feel very oppressive as long as someone's hitting their shots. How do you deal with this? Like, what are you supposed to do here? Beta feels very inescapable because like that's pretty much a guaranteed hit and he's already dead based off of that. Like, one beta is just a death sentence. Like, he's the fight initiator, not the whole show. And of course, he's got an instant revive on the carry, which you know how I feel about that. So how do we make this character feel better? As All Might is in the source material, he can only maintain that form for a limited amount of time, and I feel like his cooldowns or ammo should be able to reflect that in some way. That's just an idea I'm spitballing. But what's really important is that we talk a bit about fall-off damage. I think this alpha, boy does have quite a lot of range, should feel the most effective at the start of it. But the closer you are, the more it hurts. That's the general idea of it. So if I'm all the way back here, this should not be hurting as much. The closer range, the better. This is also especially problematic when he's diving in on someone, where they just don't really have an opportunity to react. I think the beta down power needs to be reduced. Have you seen the down power in this move? It's like 100, 150. Yeah, I just looked it up. The slam is 50 and the tornado is 100. Like, that's not appropriate, right? And of course, remove the instant revive. Being All Might, I kind of respect that he has so much ammo on this, but I think it would also be cool if he can do a super jump while carrying someone as well. I don't know, just think about that, I guess. So, superb design, implementation needs some work, so I'm gonna put him high B tier. Rapid All Might doesn't exist yet, so I'm going straight to Aizawa. What do we like about Aizawa? We like this movement. This is very fun. Constantly moving around, he has really strong mobility. He also has a very high skill ceiling as well, because you do need to hit these alpha shots. He's a very combo-oriented character, and the silence effect has great utility that everyone can appreciate. Very fun character. I think the core of the design is all there, nothing really needs to be changed. But my main problems are to do with the implementation. First of all, look at this damage. How is this fair? Like, I hit one alpha and I'm rewarded with that much? Who thought this was okay? Like, genuinely, this might be one of the strongest gamma skills in the game. Like, what are you meant to do about that? I think it's not good that he can hold someone in place for so long. Like, eventually they do get pulled in, but I think that's really slow. And it allows teammates to really capitalize on that. Which, in theory, doesn't sound bad, but unfortunately, team combos are very powerful and problematic. Like, maybe you can make it a Shinso effect where they take more down power if they're captured like that or something. But if you just made it always instant pull, that just sounds better. I think his alpha ammo is quite excessive. This is a common theme we see on tech characters. I think tech characters, because of the reload boost they get, should be more concerned about how much ammo they're using and spacing out their attacks. But you can just spam it like so much, and the amount of mobility you get, this becomes like such a mobile character. I know it's really fun, but I feel like he can just do way more than most others can. It doesn't feel balanced. So this gamma is used as like a B&B combo, and it has a projectile negation part to it, so you can't really challenge it unless you're a character that has armor on a move. Silence has some strange interactions with certain characters, because for some reason they just make it interrupt the animation, which just makes them shoot off into the sky. That's not very good programming, guys. Just let the action carry out at least. That way you don't get any crazy momentum stuff. Also, I understand making it so that if someone has invincibility that they can't be silenced. I understand that, but I don't know, it just kind of doesn't feel nice. Maybe there's no way around that, who knows. By the way, do you know how much down power this move has? It's like 10 per hit. That's what you do on a projectile attack. But why is it on this, one of the strongest team combo skills in the game? Like, hello, Balance? Balance team, are you with us? His beta feels very irrelevant to most of his kit. He is meant to be a combo character, right? So why do we never care about what beta does? If anything, it's just a reposition tool just like Deku. It just kinda sucks, because Gamma just does everything better. One way that you can reduce the damage is just by making it push them out further, so like less hits connect. That way you don't need to change any damage values. So yeah, this character needs some work. No like major changes, so I'm gonna put him solid B tier. Oh, here's a fun one, Shigaraki. So one of the things that they changed about Shigaraki recently is that now he has double special action, and with all of his mobility things he can do, this character is schmoovin'. This makes him like super fun, and he's also like very strong. Like, hey, you see this wall right here? I could wall climb up it, but what if I did this instead? Woohoo! But he has a very defined effective range where he can work inside of buildings. Why? Because he has a beta thing that turns the floor into lava. He can work very well at range, he can work very well close up. In fact, he's even better close up. And he is a character to be feared, which is very much in character. His main weakness is that he is very much a grounded character. He can't do anything about people in the sky. And I think that's a fine way of balancing your character. Given the amount of characters in this game that have a lot of mobility options, it makes sense. It's fair. Also, you can shoot up walls, which is a very interesting thing. So what can I say that's bad about this character? Well, first of all, shooting down walls for some reason just isn't a thing. I don't know why you can shoot up the wall but not down the wall. Maybe it's done intentionally, I don't know, I don't get it. The grab is honestly a little bit inconsistent, especially if you have some lag. I don't know why it is like this. I would prefer it if it was just more consistent. I find that the beta is quite oppressive without intent. Say that you're on a building with multiple floors and someone's on like the floor above, and you're just continually hitting someone with a beta. You never even see this person, but you're getting kills just for existing in the same area. I would prefer it if your actions were a bit more intentional. So maybe this needs work, I don't know. I appreciate the power fantasy aspect of it, but maybe it should be a bit more fair. In certain matchups, it is of course very oppressive, like too much, like certain matchups are always going to be one-sided against this guy, which maybe you don't want that in a skill-based game, but I digress. And to balance it out, he's just completely useless against aerial characters. If Nejire's in the sky, what the hell am I meant to do, huh? Like, yeah, it's a team game, maybe you're meant to have your team cover your weaknesses, but maybe you as the player should not be powerless in some situations. Like, advantage, disadvantage is a different thing from one-sided. So what can we do to make this character feel a bit better? Well, I'm considering about the scaling of the beta, maybe make that less oppressive. I think with the recent change to how levels work, where you keep your levels on revive, maybe we should be using level 9 as the standard for how we balance a character. Because you can expect in a late game scenario, everyone's going to be 999. Or maybe in a more competitive lobby, I don't know. Maybe make this circle expand a bit slower so you can react to it better. But I think the change that I want the most is to do with the special action. Look at this animation, look how he kind of slaps downwards. And what happens when you hit someone in the air? They just kind of fly backwards as you would expect, like anyone would, like the grounded version. But what if it was like a spike, like you're playing Smash? Like, spike that volleyball. Even better, remember when we were talking about like move cancels? What if it was like this, and then you could like immediately transition into Gamma, and then you can grab them before they hit the ground? That would be like so goddamn peak. If you're fighting a Nejire inside of a building and you smack her downwards, maybe that should do something. There's a lot of ways you can do to make this character feel nicer, but right now, I think he's actually in a really good spot. So maybe one day he could be S tier, but for now, he's A tier. Good design, good implementation, can't really complain. Now let's talk Assault Shigaraki. Similar to this whole Shigaraki design, it wouldn't be Shigaraki if he wasn't a very grounded sort of character. And it doesn't mean that he has to be on the ground, it's that his attacks hit on the ground. Like, he's still not an aerial fighter, but he's meant to bully people on the ground. This is your bully character. And I like that it kind of plays with that idea, but just puts him into a different role. The whole decay effect, very similar to Burn, is interesting. I feel like they could do more of it. But it's fun, I like it. I'm down. Also, this move right here, this is cool. But I do have some complaints. Okay, well, first complaint, you can do this for some reason. Like, what is that? I hate stun loops. That's really not fun. But like, why does this have a stagger that just lets him get a very free beta? For some reason, he's not rewarded for landing direct hits. What happens when I hit this alpha? It, for the most part, just flies right past her. And see what happens when I don't hit her, but I hit the ground in front of her. That's where most of the damage is. Like, at least there is a direct hitbox, but you're just rewarded for being indirect. I don't get it. And also, it lacks any sort of synergy with the special action because you're no longer incentivized to play up close. Like, if you could, like, move cancel this, I would kind of be down for that. Again, with, like, the spike aspect. So again, let's say there's a Nejire in the sky, I fly up, I hit her with a special action, I dunk her, and now she's going flying down to the ground, and then I can do like my grounded combo stuff. That would be really cool. Make this stun combo just like less oppressive. Either get rid of the stagger or greatly reduce it. We need attack cancels and such, right? I had a whole tangent on that. I want to see more of that, please. Yeah, I don't like this guy. I won't say you need to make any significant changes to make him feel like a better character, but for now, I'm gonna put him low B tier. Like, I see what they were going for, but could be better. Okay, let's talk about All for One. So I really like the way that he works in this game, in that he feels like a big threatening baddie. He is a bit of a boss fight. He has a lot of power, he has a big menacing aura, and of course it wouldn't be All for One if it weren't for his ability to acquire new powers. Where now I can be anyone I want, kind of. But just talking about his base kit, it has quite a lot of versatility. It's got a crowd control tool, he's got a ranged projectile, and he's got a melee tool. He has just a little bit of everything. I generally like the way that the power changing works, because with the cooldown the way that it is, you can't really abuse cooldown resets, which is a problem that we will get into later. So All for One does feel quite balanced in that way. So I think the design is good, and I think the implementation is good. So let's talk a little bit about the bad. First of all, I think Gamma Tap is kind of lame, because it is just kind of unreactable. Regarding the way that the alpha works, this can be like a bit too oppressive, because like look at that range, look at that speed, and look at that power. And that's just like the tap one. The powerful one I don't have any problems with. I think that's fine for what it is. It's just mostly the tap, because it just has all of those things. It's got power, speed, range, and plenty of ammo. Like, there's just kind of no weakness to this move. Another thing people don't like is the situation where you KO someone, you take their quirk, and then you find out this is actually really weak. Like, what am I meant to do with all these level 1 quirks, eh? Why would I ever want to use this outside of just having some more mobility? So the one thing people have asked for a long time is let this guy level his stolen quirks. So what would make it better? Well, first of all, I like talking about fall off damage, right? Give this some fall off damage, please. It doesn't have to be like crazy fall off damage or anything, but just something that makes it so that he's not super rewarded for playing at massively long range. I think to make Gamma feel better is to do with the way that the range works. Like, there's a hold ability, and you can release it to immediately do the pushback. You can tap it as well. But like, what's the point of like holding it to release to do a pushback when you can tap it? Here's what I think might be good. I think as soon as you start holding it, the range is very small, and then the longer you hold it, the more the range becomes. That way, if you're pursuing him, you can't just press this button to get it out of jail free. And the cooldown isn't even that bad. Like, he just needs to stay out of people's eyes for like a little bit, and then he can do it again. So just make it a little bit more reactable. But overall, design is good, implementation is fine. I'm gonna put this guy as a solid A tier character. Oh boy, let's talk about Dabi, shall we? So what do I like about Dabi? Actually, a lot of things. This guy is very much like the sneaky underground sort of dude. He's very powerful, but he's very much like in his own area. He's a control character, right? He places traps, he does sneaky things. If anyone tries to approach him, firing. Very much about the beta and the gamma. These have really good synergy, and he can even use some like melee stuff in between. If anyone's ever trying to pursue him, they're gonna have a very hard time, because he can just put down traps and that'll prevent people from following him. People can try to shoot the traps, but they will exist for a little bit, meaning that they'll still take some damage. If anyone gets too close, it's firing. It's very impactful, and he can use his alpha to kite people. If anyone's trying to chase him down, he just needs to run away, throw out some alphas so they have to react to that, and otherwise they'll be eating up a lot of free damage. Considering it has like a homing effect, you don't even need to worry too much about aiming. Meanwhile, they do. That's very much their problem. And overall, this is a very fun defensive control character. Very good for those final circle situations. But as you probably know, this guy has some vulnerabilities. In the world of balance, he is considered a pretty weak character. And one of the reasons for that is because this alpha just does not do anything. If he's not in a very controlled situation, he can't really do much. So USJ is very much going to be one of those like open maps, right? If you get a bad zone, what are you meant to do, huh? Just die. Anyone that wants to chase you and go aggressive and you don't have the right environment for it, you're just gonna die. And this thing just does not do you any favors. So when it comes to changes, let me take you back to when I was talking about burn damage. As you may remember, the whole idea of burn intensity means that the more burn damage you do, then the more they will suffer. And being that this is Dabi, I think his burn should have quite the impact. That makes it so that the longer someone chases, the more health they'll lose, and they need to be very considerate about their health bar if they want to chase any further. Secondly, one thing that I really like is versatility. If you can aim in and you shoot a fireball, it should do something different. So for example, it should be a lot faster, it should probably be a bit smaller, and it should lose its homing ability. You use the homing shot when you want someone to stop and dodge roll or whatever, and use the aim shot for situations when you want to actually be relevant when people aren't trying to chase you. Because as it happens, people don't want to chase Dabi. People just start ignoring him, and when they ignore him, what do? Like, he doesn't have the mobility, so he can't chase people, meaning that his impact, his KO potential, is very much like an opt-in situation. Not for you, but for them. So if someone doesn't want to fight you, what the hell can you do, really? Also, just like a nice quality of life thing, I think. The way that traps work is that he places them at his feet, but what if this was like a projectile? Like, let's go back to Tech Denki real quick, and look at how his beta works. Some people will say, this is what Tech Dabi should have been. And I can see where they're getting at. So if you turn like his beta into something that attaches to surfaces, that might even make him more relevant. But I don't know, let me hear what you think. I'm moving on. I'm gonna put him low B tier just because he's got some issues that need solving. But otherwise, I think he's great. He's just got like 1 or 2 prominent issues, but they're not that bad. Nothing too crazy. Crazy? I was crazy once. They locked me in a room. A rubber room of rats. Rats make me crazy. Crazy? I was crazy. Anyway, Strike Dabi. Where do we start with this guy? I remember reading one of those magazines. Which ones were they? The ones that we got those scans for. One of those Japanese ones, and they described this guy as being high risk, high reward. And I absolutely see the vision. The reality is that no, he's not really that high risk, but he is definitely a lot of reward. Why? Because this is his game plan. Look at how much risk was in that. I press like 2 buttons and I win the game. So it's an interesting concept in design, but in execution, not so much. The things that I do appreciate about this Dabi is that he's not just grab, but he's also this. So you don't have to go for grabs, you can very much just play back, and so there's sort of like 2 different sorts of play styles here. And honestly, I would probably prefer people going for grabs all the time than this. This is the kind of the most annoying thing. Like a Dabi that knows how to use this move, this is very impressive. And you just activate Gamma and boom, just mash, 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 mash. Yeah, this is the character they made. So he doesn't feel that high risk, high reward. Of course, as I was saying before, the whole burn thing doesn't really exist here. I think that would make a lot of sense with this sort of character design. The grab, oh the grab. So sometimes this shit does not even work right. Why? Because if you say dodge the kick, then the game says, nah, you get grabbed anyway, and sometimes he's gonna be like flying around doing 180s, he's gonna hit you anyway. So implementation, I'm already giving very bad marks. Whenever he does go into Gamma, he has these little fire rings, and for some reason they have projectile negation. Yeah, I think he's supposed to have projectile negation, but it's not really working here. I do think this is really lame though, that you can just like fire circle and people are taking damage. Like, this is weird. Why is this a thing? Why does it knock back? Like, if you're ever in like a melee fight situation, then people are gonna have like a really hard time actually doing anything to you, because this thing just completely nullifies their game plan. And when eventually you run out of ammo, it does this big explosion here, which does a butt ton of damage, and I don't understand why it is that you can't control when that happens. Also, that came back like really quick. I don't have fast reload on anymore. It just comes back that fast. And like the self damage isn't even that bad. Like, I'm just gonna pop a green card and I'm fine, right? Chug a couple greens. Pop the Gamma. Drink a green potion. Oh look, my Gamma's back off of cooldown. Here we go again. This character sucks. So what would make him better? Well, first of all, as I was saying, the whole burn mechanic needs reworking. But I think with my concept of the whole burn intensity thing could work really well. Because let's say you activate Gamma and your burn intensity level goes up. Your self-damage is entirely based on burn level. So let's say I'm accumulating burn, and I go up to like burn intensity level 3, and that's where my bonus damage comes from. It doesn't come from toggling gamma on or off. It's like an innate thing with Dabi that says the higher your burn level, the more damage you do. And then you're using gamma specifically just to control your burn level. That way you turn it off, you're still burning, so maybe you got to do some things to reduce your burn level, and that is the risk part of it. You can't just like turn off the risk. Also, I think like you should be able to hold the button to do the explosion like on command. It feels really weird to only let it happen once your ammo's run out. Rework the way that all of these little fire circles work as well, just because I hate the knockback, I hate the projectile negation. Also the grab, he gets armor doing this. They actually nerfed the armor recently, so it comes out later, which is good, but if they just like remove the armor, I wouldn't be sad about that either. Like, I'm okay with Strike Dabi having lots of damage. What I'm not okay with is just having like no risk as part of it. Because the risk versus reward was supposed to be like the main focus of the design of this character. And as a design, that's great, I'm into it. The implementation, dog shit. So I'm not gonna put him into D tier just because the design is good and you can salvage that. But the implementation is terrible. So I'm gonna put him close to D as possible, which is bottom of C tier. This character just sucks. Toga it is? It's time for Toga. Toga mentioned. Look at this funny little walking animation, it's so funny. So as you may or may not know, this character has some issues. But in design, I kinda like what we got here. Even the implementation isn't that bad. So this is a character, a tech character with some good variety. You've got your ranged knives, you've got your beta so as a melee combat, and you've got the gamma, which is like the core of her kit, which is to get people's blood, turn into them, and be them for a bit. As a tech character, we've got that variety that I love to see. It's very much a character that rewards you for being good with the entire cast. I play a lot of Deku, so if I get some Deku blood, I'm gonna be happy. And I really appreciate in the design that Toga is constantly transforming. That's really cool. The reason why she's not so valued in tier lists is because this tracking is butt. And you know what? I'm kind of okay with that. Because, as I say, I don't like tracking much. I prefer it when you actually have to aim to hit your skills, but given how important it is to her kit, I see the problem. There are some major issues that need addressing. Continuing talking about her base kit, I find that her skills, while they do have variety, don't really have synergy. There's no real synergy about running around hitting people with knives and also throwing knives. The closest I'll give you is the idea of kiting someone with alpha and then when they approach you hit them with beta. That's the closest I'll give you to synergy. But it's not combos, it's not anything. It should be better. I mean, you can do this, I guess. Like, there's a way of getting blood. Given how important getting blood is for Toga, I would expect her moves to actually combo a bit better. This is something her rapid counterpart does better. So let's talk about better. I think that her beta, the way it works is that when you slash into someone, it immediately knocks them down. That is 500 down power. Maybe don't make it hard knock down in one hit, but knocking them on their ass is fine. I think one thing that you can do instead is when you let go of the button, it does like a final hit that knocks them into the air, which makes them a prime target for a gamma. Now, if gamma was actually reliable, Toga becomes a massive problem, and you know why? It's because of something called cooldown resets. It's this idea that I can keep spamming the same button over again, transform, turn back, do it again. Cooldown resets are a big problem. Of course you can solve cooldown reset problems just by tracking her cooldowns internally, meaning that as soon as you transform and then turn back, it doesn't immediately reset your cooldowns. They are still in the exact state that you left them. I don't care about the idea that you transform into someone and you have all their cooldowns immediately. That doesn't matter to me, just because that's not Toga's skill set. If anything, it's your fault for getting hit. And finally, let's talk about tracking. So the mechanics of the way the gamma works is that all of the syringes will always converge on that one spot where your crosshair is. Meaning if it's really close up, then they all do this thing where they all converge immediately, but when it's far away, they spread out and they converge a bit later on. I don't like the idea that they converge. That just doesn't really make sense to me, because you only need to hit one, and when all the syringes are kind of spread out, that's all that you need. So step one, stop making the syringes converge. Just let them spread out. Step 2, the way that the tracking works is all about that convergence point. Instead, let each syringe have its own tracking. That way, if a syringe is moving somewhere and someone is nearby, it will go off course and it will redirect towards that person. Not all the syringes will do that, just the ones that come close to another person. But the way it is now, if one of them misses, they all miss. And that is just a whole lot of butt. I have no problem with being able to roll the syringes. It's just make the tracking not dumb. So in order to make Toga feel like a much better character, I think she's gonna need some work. So I'm not gonna put her in B, but I'm gonna put her in C. But I'm at least gonna put her high C. Just because the changes that I would want to see in her don't change the way that she works massively. It's mostly a mechanics change. But also, I think this beta could be a bit better as well. So generally, Rapid Toga has a bit of a stronger skill set than Tech Toga. So this is a rapid skill set that's more about maneuvering your opponents. Some skill sets are about the combos, this is more about just flying around being hard to hit. And you know what? This skill set has a lot of synergy. This is how we get blood. I am now you. And now I am me. Boom, boom, boom. That's very fun. We like to see synergy in skill set designs. So already Rapid Toga's got points up on tech, but I have some problems. While this is synergy, it's also kind of oppressive. Look how much damage that does. And what the hell are you gonna do? Just spam roll? Like, look how much ammo I have. I can do this twice, and then that knocks down, but whatever. What's important is I get one that staggers, and the gamma, I've got 3 of these. Like, why do I need so much? And oh my god, that alpha, this is like the most oppressive thing. Look how much damage I can do. This is a rapid character, remember. Like, this doesn't really have the synergy that the other moves have. This is just a spam attack that is really strong, has a massive hitbox, and is just not fun to deal with. And when you have a strong skill set like that, why even bother transforming? Because that's what Toga's about, right? Transforming. So why doesn't she need to do that? Like, I've got the blood, surely that's my win condition. Now I am you, and now I can be able to do things as you while I'm waiting for my cooldowns to come back. Oh wait, I don't need to do that because I have cooldown resets, because cooldown resets are so cool, and why is it still in the game? It's been here since launch and we've always been complaining about it. Technically on tech, but it still applies. And now it's not even just the Toga problem, but we'll get into that later. Just this damage is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why Gamma does that much damage. That's just an easy 120 damage. Just like staggers for days, you don't even need to hit the beta if you're good at aiming. You just need to like just hit people raw, and it's just easy blood. Cooldown reset, boom, done. Waiting for you to get back up, and you know what, I'm gonna do it again. Boom, another 120 damage. You're knocked on your ass. Cooldown reset. Boom, another 120 damage. Just back on your ass. You can't do anything. You can't fight me. You just have to wait till your invincibility comes off, but I'm waiting for that too. Boom, I'm back again. It's just a cycle of this, and this makes this character feel incredibly toxic. Just like Tech, this character needs some work. But instead of it being a problem where she's too weak, this character is way too strong and annoying. So how do we fix Toga? Rapid version. Once again, get rid of the cooldown resets, track her cooldowns internally at all times. Secondly, when we're talking about Alpha, I think this fire rate needs to go down. The damage is honestly fine. I just don't think she should be able to spam it in the way that she does. Especially with 8 ammo, like that's so much. Like, she doesn't need 8 ammo. And she should be relying on the recoil for damage anyway. And with your fire rate down, you don't need any of that ammo, right? Can we get rid of that as well? I'm not gonna push the balancing too hard. But what if you don't want it to come back? What if by aiming in, you're deliberately throwing the boomerang so it doesn't return? That way you're able to hit people with a bit more range, but specifically when you want to hit someone that's very up close or in a very tight area, then you should be positioning yourself in a way where you want the boomerang to come back. Again, this damage is not bad, it's only a problem when it gets spammed like crazy. And when it's no longer feeling super oppressive due to the fire rate, then we can also reduce the down power so you don't get knocked on your ass. Because like, if you're not doing any stagger, you shouldn't be doing a lot of down power anyway, right? Because down power, for the most part, is supposed to be a combo breaker. This isn't a combo breaker, it's just a way of attempting to balance a badly balanced skill in the wrong way. We can change the way that the stagger works on this for sure, because I don't think it should be staggering that hard. So just reduce the stagger time, make it harder for Toga to follow up. Like having so much time to correct your aim makes aiming a lot easier. And if you hit someone with shield, then oh, it should be doubly so, right? Like maybe this shouldn't even stagger at all on guard, right? And of course, make sure that Gamma doesn't have all of this ammo, because she really doesn't need it. The beta is the major maneuvering skill, right? This helps her with some mobility, but I think ideally this is supposed to be like the ace in the hole for getting blood. And having that being spammable with free ammo isn't great. You can have like 2 ammo at some level, I don't care. But anyway, she's got issues that she needs to fix. I like some aspects of the design, I just think the implementation is bad, so I'm gonna put her C tier. Endeavor! So this is a character that has some balance issues, but is generally a pretty nice character. His alpha is very much focused on tracking rather than like flicks, projectiles and all that, and his flight is a pretty nice tool for combat as well. What I appreciate is that this sort of power was given to a character with quite a large body, and the significance of that is that he's easy to hit, which means an Endeavor is probably going to die very fast, which does make him a bit of a glass cannon, but that's fine. It's very satisfying to hit these betas, especially if you're like sniping someone from afar. The Gamma has a niche, but it's very effective when properly utilized. So I think Endeavor's damage is pretty well balanced. I quite like what they've done with him. So let's talk about some problems. Well, of course, he dies very easily because he's a glass cannon, and I don't know if that's entirely appropriate for Endeavor, for who he is. It just kind of feels bad, man. The way that the alpha works is really weird in my opinion, just because it's like an ammo-based thing when we have percentage-based moves. Like, I would compare this move to the way that Zarya's cannon works in Overwatch, and that is effectively a percent-based move. So why is this not that? Right? Isn't that weird? And of course, with every character that has fire as part of their moveset, the burn effect is bad. This is a very powerful character, and I would expect him to apply lots of burn damage, especially on Prominence Burn. What changes would I make? First of all, I'm gonna say 350 health. That sound fair? He has a big body, right? He's a big man. Why is he so squishy? Why is he about as durable as these runts? And of course, a rework of the burn system. But overall, I think Endeavor is in a fine spot. He is absolutely going into A tier. Yeah, that's fine. It's time for Lemillion. This character is really damn fun. I love Mirio. The way that he can just fly through buildings, and I think most importantly is that this is a really good depiction of what he is like in the source material. I mean, as close as you can really get it without breaking the game. Just, I appreciate what they did here. So it sounds like I'm giving him good marks, right? But we gotta talk about the problems, and there are many. First of all, this is Mirio's combo. I'm so skilled at this video game. Yeah, no, this isn't very cool. It's a very tracking heavy move. You just mash the button. And if that isn't working, check your internet. Get an Ethernet cable. And do you know what Mirio's biggest counter is? Everyone do it now. Yeah, very cool. But at least I can punch people through the walls, right? Right? No? Not really? So Mirio's mechanics are also very like geometry specific, and not all of it is done with Mirio in mind. So based on the way the map geometry works, it really limits Mirio's freedoms. And what happens when you want to move through a building but you don't have enough space? You just get thrown out again, and that can lead to some very awkward interactions. Also, I don't know about you, but if you've ever played with lag and you're dealing with a Mirio, this character feels awful to play against. Either you're lagging and that makes him even more difficult to roll, or the Mirio's lagging and he's hitting you from places that he shouldn't be hitting you. In other words, Mirio plus lag equals shit experience, no matter who's lag. Also, Mirio is the only character in the game with 225 health, the lowest in the game. And do you know why that is? It's because he's really good at stalling, because he just flies off into the sky with his free ammo on his alpha, and now he's really all the way up here, and then he just presses beta, and he goes into the ground. Now he stalls down here, and he's going around waiting for his cooldowns to come back up. And he goes into special action. Now you can't hit me. Da-di-da-di-da. Oh no, I'm invulnerable. Oh wait, alpha's back up. Back we go. Mirio is incredible at stalling, and that isn't cool. Mirio's special action duration is like really short, and the reload is absolutely pitiful. So while Mirio has a really cool design, and the way that they've made him work in this game, he just has so many problems, and it sucks because I love him. So how do we fix this? Well, first of all, my opinion is get rid of the way that this combo works. I'm going to say instead, every time you punch someone, you don't get a free combo, but you can punch someone again. And every time you punch them, your next punch does a bit more damage. You still have to aim it, it's no longer a true combo, but you're incentivized to keep punching. And not even the same target, you can go onto someone else, because this is a buff that is applied to Mirio that goes away after a few seconds of not doing anything. And then the third hit, of course, does the whole power thing. And because it's likely that you're going to be dealing with multiple people at once, then instead of making it so that only really like this small area gets affected, what if you made like the hitbox like really large and everyone just gets pushed to the ground? Wouldn't that be like really funny? Mirio's like potential combo system is like really cool. Like I understand he's a character that's meant to like play around awareness, but it's like his combo game is really cool and it could be better with a more developed combo system. Once the whole power thing comes out, it consumes the buff and now he's starting from scratch. Also tracking, I hate tracking. Get rid of it. You know the charge punch actually doesn't have any tracking? One of the things that I don't like about Mirio's special action is that as soon as he turns it off, he can do something immediately. I think there should be a portion where he can't do anything immediately, and people have to react to that. Also make the particle effect a bit more obvious. I want to nerf it in such a way that makes it so that it doesn't become like really overpowered. Just because I think the ammo cost is actually fine, but the fact that you can't activate it unless it's 100% is really frustrating. But if we nerf the mechanics of it a bit, maybe we can have that back. That seems like a good trade-off to me. What I really appreciate that they changed recently is that they reduced the cost of traveling to a teammate. The relay cost is, you know, still pitiful, but this is like really cool. But unlike the normal special action, I think you should be able to act out of this pretty immediately as well. Just use the gamma immediately for the bubble to shield. This is a character that's very much about outmaneuvering your opponents. This is a potentially very high skill character. I feel like this character has so much potential, the design's so good, but they're just not doing the right things with the implementation. He deserves so much better, and he could be so much better. I see the vision, and we just cannot have it. So it pains me to do so, but I'm gonna put Mirio high C, just because of the sheer amount of problems. Next up, let's talk about Nejire. I do not own this character, but I really want to because I think she's super fun. So Nejire has a very clear purpose as like an air control character. She has a very clear strengths and weaknesses. Like in the air, she's kind of defenseless. If someone with a projectile just wants to shoot her down, what's she gonna do about that? She can't roll in the air. But in certain situations, she can be very annoying. I really like the way that she's designed. I'm sure many people have their trauma, but I think since the last changes, she's in a much better spot now. So I'm having trouble finding any complaints. I do think she should be able to do something a little bit more about her vulnerability, because if anyone can shoot her, then she's just going to be completely unviable in a higher competitive lobby. I feel like I don't really understand this move's niche all that well. Maybe it's fine, maybe I just, need some experience and time with her. I appreciate that the down power isn't what it used to be, but maybe it's fine, I don't know. As for the special action, if you just keep tapping jump, you can get so much speed just doing this, and you're using less of your special action. This feels like really exploitable. Like, it's just better than holding it, like, all the time. I feel like it shouldn't be that way. I like the idea that you can tap it a little bit, but I feel like it's just always better. And again, to help her with her vulnerability issues, I think the dash should be a little bit different. I appreciate where the ammo cost is at, but I think it should be a little bit faster. Maybe have less end lag on it, where the way that she like flies upwards as she stops herself. I don't know, I just think this needs to feel a little bit better. Like her turn speed is like really bad. So overall, I just don't have any issues. I really like where Nejire is at right now. So I'm gonna put her as a solid A tier character. Alright, next let's talk about Overhaul. Now Overhaul has quite a lot of good versatility that allows him to play at multiple different ranges. His alpha is mostly a like defensive move just because of the high down power it has. It's a very good get off me move, as is his gamma, which is like a big cage thing, which you can very easily follow up on. And beta is also very cool. I really like the things you can do with beta. The way that you can aim with it as well Like, you can hit people like really high up on buildings, even things like out of sight with good beta aim. I don't know all the mechanics of it, but it's really cool from the clips I've seen. And while I do appreciate what he can do, at the same time, I feel like he could do more. Here are the problems I have. One, this is a move, and to do damage, you just spam it. This is its purpose. You look at someone and you spam the button a bunch. Given this is a support, I would expect a more tactical moveset. I don't think this is it. And Gamma, once again, this is just a spam move. I just don't feel like the design of Overhaul really captures the tactical or strategic aspects that you would expect from a support character. And that's my major issue with him. I just am not a big fan of the design. Implementation, I can't complain, it's just a design problem for me. What can you do to spice this character up a bit? One thing you can do is different variations of the move by holding it. So when he presses the button, spikes come out. But if you hold the button, maybe you can have a stronger spike move that has more down power, it knocks people about. It becomes a more like area control move, rather than get out of the fire, get out of the fire, get out of the fire, you died. As for Gamma, I don't like how spammy this move feels. I think the way to do it is, say, if you tap the button, then the cages that appear in front of him should be like, that should be all you get. And then when you hold the button, that's when it should shoot off like that. That way he can't just annoy people at a distance by tapping a button. He has to like commit a bit more to it. It has a bit more end lag. But what I really do appreciate about the cages that appear like on him is that it has like combo potential. So really, not much to talk about. I just don't like his design. I think he needs to have more utility and feel generally less spammy. So I'm just gonna put him in B tier. It's fine, could be better. Hey everyone, do you have feelings about Twice? I'm sure you do, because I won't stop hearing about it. Everyone's very passionate about their hatred for Twice. So let me have a go, let's see what I think, huh? So first of all, this is another combo rapid. You go up to a dude, you press the button a bunch, and you get a clone for your troubles. And that is a ton of damage right there. But it could be even more damage. Why? Because you can throw knives. And you can do some very crazy damage if you can get that right. And Beta is a very nice combo and a move that you can use for a reset, and then you get a little buddy moving around. So I like what he does. He's very much a combo fighter rather than being like a high mobility, like maneuvering sort of guy. He has 300 health, which is uncommon for a rapid. He stays back, he finds his way in, and then he hits you with a big old combo. And that's fine. I think that's fine part of the design. The loss for the problems are going to be, once again, to do with implementation. First of all, I think his combo game could be a bit better, because we have these, you know, melee hits, and these don't really combo very well. I would like some, like, attack cancels and such. Like, you'd think this would, like, combo into a Gamma, right? But it don't. Not even a Beta? Oh, that works. But yeah, this is a character that I think would like really benefit from like lots of cool like attack cancel stuff. Make him a really fun combo fighter. It could be better. But one of the things that people really don't like is tracking. Look where I'm looking. I'm not really looking at Shoto right now, but wow, that was just kind of given to me, huh? And of course, it's also staggering. Many people hate the tracking, but I hate the stagger. Why? Because in a higher level lobby, you can expect people to actually be able to aim their shots. Yes, it's not great that people are being rewarded for being bad, but just because you aim doesn't mean you deserve the world. Also, clones are a little bit annoying. Supposedly, their aim is very frustrating for some certain players. The reason why I don't have a big issue is because one shot and they're dead. Like, it is extremely easy to counter a clone. But I suppose it could be a matchup thing. So how do you make Twice better? Well, first of all, I think it would be nice if clones just had worse accuracy. Like maybe some like randomness. Maybe some like prediction levels or something. I mean, it'd be a bit dumb if they were missing like stationary targets. I would like it if Twice had more combo options where he could utilize like more attack cancels. But I think the thing we would love the most is just removing the tracking. Because as I've said before, I don't like tracking. As I say, my biggest issue is with the stagger. So I would say take some damage away from the combo and put it on the tape, but only let the actual like knife hits do any staggering. That way, if someone rolls the attack, you don't get a combo, but you at least get some damage off. Any tracking should exclusively be for some of like the follow-up stuff. The stuff that is like unreasonable to expect someone to be able to do by themselves. Or I don't know, just like make that the combo. It's fine, you get a lot of reward out of that. But before I end this, let's talk a little bit about FPS. Because as you may or may not know, this guy becomes stronger with the lower FPS you have. Because the stagger hits from further away. And that is simply just bad implementation. This is what it's like on Switch. You just... Ugh. Like that hits. That is longer range than the actual dash itself. I can't follow up, but the stagger still hits. Wouldn't it be really funny if I hit someone from 5 FPS this far away? Did you hear that? That hit. Overall, Twerks is going in C tier, because this guy's got problems that need fixing. So Mr. Compress is a pretty nice character, and he throws out marbles which have items inside of them, and he has an aim shot that has a slightly different mechanic to his aiming. I like variety. For his beta, he has a deflect tool, which is pretty unique, and his gamma is movement, which has a very nice cloud here. I like this cloud, this is cool. You see, the smoke cloud could be considered utility. In fact, I would like to see this explored a bit more. I like that his alpha is not just like an easy shot, you have to do all this sort of like... There's a lot to consider here about like your own positioning. It's not just a straight shot of like hit someone with marble win game, it has like drop to it so it's difficult to aim. This is nice. But I have some problems with the implementation. Oh, and you can like pick people up, I guess. There's some like very interesting stuff you can do by doing this. Like imagine you see a compress and you're like, oh, he's alone, get him, and then suddenly, Dabi. Here are the problems that I have with Mr. Compress. First of all, let's talk about damage. This has next to no down power. Isn't that cool? Also, the mechanics of the damage are really weird. If you hit the marble directly, it does 83 damage. If you say hit from above, and you don't hit correctly, it does 110 damage, because you're hitting them with the object and the explosion of the object. You're being rewarded mostly from hitting from above, rather than hitting them directly. I feel like that's a really weird implementation, and I'm not a big fan. I don't think it even makes much sense that a big truck is working like this. Beta, if you don't know, is a little bit unreliable. Sometimes shots just go through this thing. It's not consistent. It's bugged, needs fixing. Otherwise, I like it as a skill. Gamma, at some point, they changed this skill so it has armor. I do not like that change because it makes him very difficult to pursue. But there is one character that doesn't have a big issue with it. I understand they're trying to make Gamma a more reliable means of escape, but isn't that what the trickery's for? I feel like they should be playing into the misdirection part of Compress more. I feel like that's a design flaw. Speaking of Gamma, I don't really like the fact that he has 2 ammo, just because I feel like that makes him too mobile. So here's what I think would be better design. I want to talk about how I would change the Alpha skill. Currently the way that we use Alpha, you press the button, he throws an item. At level 9, it's a big old truck with a big old hitbox and a big old amount of damage. And despite that, it's a small amount of down power. So the quick and easy way is add down power to the move to make sure that getting hit by a truck feels like getting hit by a truck. The problem with that is that it would make Compress an awful teammate, because how would anyone get any damage in if they're constantly getting knocked on their ass? Well, that's where the aim comes in handy. If I change my level to level 6, it throws a rock instead. What if by aiming in, it always throws a rock, and by always not aiming in, it always throws a larger object? So when aiming in and you hit someone, then you'll get the low down power version with less damage and of course less size. That way, if all you want to do is contribute to damage, then all you have to do is aim in. But if you want to be disruptive, then you do this. 2 different ways of using the same skill for 2 different purposes. That is variety. I think we should look at the way that the cloud works. What if by holding the button, like it makes his aim indicator come out, which is kind of nice, I guess. But what if there was a way of leaving the cloud without movement? And the cloud was just another means of trickery, misdirection. Of course, I do appreciate that it does have mobility options. I just think that it could be a bit better designed and more focused on like the trickery aspect of it. So overall, I think Compress has some design flaws. I think he has some implementation flaws. So I'm going to put him high C tier. Bird up.
Yo, what's going on?
Orcs is a very, very fun character that I do not own. His whole thing is about speed, and speed he has. This is probably the most mobile character in the game, and I'm okay with that. He has lots of versatility that allows him to play at range. He has support utility, where he can reveal people, and of course he can play close up, where he has combos. I really like the design, but there are a few implementation problems. First of all, let's talk about beta and melee. So this beta combo has been nerfed a bunch for good reason, and I quite like where the damage values are at now. And you can roll it, you don't just get it for free, but if you hit him with a melee combo, then you kind of do get it for free. And look how much ground you cover with this melee. This is kind of ridiculous, isn't it? So you just need to be like vaguely near people and you just get like big damage combos for nothing. Like the challenge aspect of hitting combos is important, and Hawks just gets it for free. So big problem number one is combos are free. There should be some level of risk when getting up close. This is the thing that incentivizes him to play from afar or provide support if needed, and only going in when the coast is clear. Ridiculous, isn't it? So you just need to be like vaguely near people and you just get like big damage combos for nothing. The other thing is, while he is flying around, his ammo on his flight goes down way too fast, meaning that he can't actually stay in the air that long, and being a rapid, this should be one of his main tools. Or is beta his main tool? It's kind of both. Being that this is the special action, I'm going to say that it also applies to other potential quirk sets, assuming that everyone's always going to be covering the same in special action. Also, special action can lift people up. This is really cool support. So how do we go about fixing this? First of all, I'm going to say take away a lot of the speed from this flight. And to compensate, take away a lot of the ammo cost as well. But he can still gain lots of speed just by tapping the button. That way, he's still able to play around airborne. He's still able to hit people with his tracking alpha, this is like the only kind of tracking I'm okay with, because it's a homing missile, not like tracking, making the game easier for you. And you can also like aim down alpha, and this is fine. I mean, I think this damage is a bit ridiculous, but whatever. If we're going to overhaul the melee system, then I would say don't let him spam moves like this. This is suitable as like a dash attack, not like a standard melee. But Hawks does have a lot of very cool combos. If we can't have that sort of combo system, at least greatly reduce the forward momentum he gets from this first melee attack. Because remember, this is Deku's melee attack. How was that fair? It's nice that he can combo a little bit with the beta, but if he's going for like a combo like this, I would say that he gets the first hit, but that should immediately knock down. Either way, they've been looking at Hawks for some time now. He's had a series of nerfs, and so I would say he's gotten a lot better over time. So he used to be C tier, but now I'm going to put him in B. Let's talk about Kendo, another melee-centric character. And remember what we say about melee-centric characters? It's that the melee system is just not good enough to really support them. So Kendo is very much an up-close fighter. Her entire kit is like melee focused. She can throw some rocks, but she also has defensive aspects. She can cover herself with a shield as well as her teammates. And unlike Kirishima, this one actually has an amount of durability. So she's a fighter, she's a defender, she's got all sorts of things. And as a pretty simple melee fighter, this is fine. If there was a different sort of melee combat system, that I think Kendo would probably greatly appreciate that and should be a lot more fun to play. Unfortunately, we do not live in such a world, and Kendo has some problems. Number one is random spread. You can very easily see where all of these rocks are going, and it is very random, and we don't like random. And if all the rocks hit, 148. What is this? So it's random spread, it does ridiculous amounts of damage if all the rocks hit, which by the way is very easy if you just hit them with a melee combo. And you don't even need to be that close up. I'm getting 148 from this distance. This is like mid-range distance. This character is dumb and it's not even consistent. Why man, why? But let's say Kendo's all the way over here. Now she's completely useless. You can throw those rocks a little bit further. Come on, Kendo, get with it. So how do we make Kendo better? Well, it's not even that hard. First of all, remove the randomness. Secondly, to help with her range problems, well, increase her range, of course. Thirdly, reduce the amount of spread on the rocks so she's quite consistent at using this as a range tool. And fourth, a thing that I really want to be in the game, is fall off damage, meaning that she's no longer rewarded so much damage from hitting from afar, because that's what fall off damage is there for, to help manage a character's effective range. Oh, and like fix these damage numbers, these are kind of stupid. I think it's pretty simple, but the general gist of Kendo is that she is a very simple character. I think a better combo system could go hard, but I don't want to ask for too much. So I'm just gonna put Kendo B tier. These aren't like major changes, it's just a few small changes that would make her a much better and consistent character. It's not a complicated design, it doesn't need to be, but the implementation could be a bit better. I've got some big things to talk about Mount Lady. I mean huge! Huge W! Mount Lady is another one of those melee-centric characters, but this one, I think, does it the best. It's not a very high bar, but she has some junk in her trunk. So Mount Lady is not just a fighter, but she's more of a bully. She has very high mobility, she punches at close range, so this is a very funny projectile. For some reason she can just throw fireballs from her hands. Good design is not always canonical, but it is source material inspired. She has lots of moves that stagger, especially the beta, which she can use to chain into other things. And probably the most notable part of her kit is the gamma, where she has a very fast dash. She can cancel her momentum and go in any direction, including backwards, and that gives her a lot of mobility. And of course, it's also a very good damage tool. It's not just a mobility skill, but it's a very core part of her combos. Each one of her skills has a giant form. It very much feels like the same skill, but giant version. Now she can't just bully one person, but a whole pack of losers. So is Mount Lady the perfect character? No. The lack of melee combat tools in this game are kind of damaging in her quality. If you're up against a very good Mount Lady player, this is a very oppressive character that is very hard to deal with. And that can be okay if that's like her thing, because the counter to that is having your teammates peel for you, as in getting this person off of you. Here lies the problem. While the gamma is very fun to use, it's a very non-committal tool. Why? Because of her constant jump cancels, means she can go in and then just dip out. And I think this is kind of damaging to her viability as well, because it puts her in such a volatile state. Her gamma is a tool that could make her potentially very broken, and then she gets dialed back in other ways to compensate. And of course, meta-wise, there's just a lot of other busted characters in the game. I think a higher committal character needs the game to feel generally more balanced. Either that or be ridiculously broken themselves. But my main concern is the design, not the balance, so let me tell you more about what I don't like about Gamma. As a bully character, you want to stick onto people. Having the ability to just dip at any moment means you don't need to stick onto people, which is why I say her Gamma needs to feel a bit more committal. When she's in big form and she uses Gamma, there's no way to get out of this. This is a very committal tool, so we just need a small version to also reflect that. Thing number one, don't let her completely redirect her momentum. Thing number two, while it's very good that you can cancel this move at certain points, I think it needs to be a little bit more restrictive. Like canceling into a beta, I get. Canceling into a jump makes sense just for general mobility, but as soon as you start hitting someone, nah. Not a big fan also of the ending of the Gamma. Maybe you can find a compromise where there's like a scripted jump where she like flips off of someone. As an example, let's say Monoma, when he hits someone with beta, he flips off like that. If you have a similar thing for Mount Lady, it could be fine. You still have that mix-up potential, it still feels good, but it's more restrictive. Also, we just need general melee combat to feel more healthy so Mount Lady can feel more healthy. I hope that makes sense. But generally, I like what she's got, so I'm gonna put a high B. It's me, Rockman. That's my name. So Cementoss is a support character in the video game, and he throws cement. And he can do all sorts of things with structures. This man is Fortnite. This was honestly probably just the inspiration for adding Cementoss into this game. So this is a pretty unique form of support that we don't see on other characters, and I appreciate that. You can provide lots of cover, you can use it to disrupt enemies, like I can split people apart, and you can build a tower in the sky. And there are some like mechanics to it, like if you destroy the base of the tower, then the whole thing comes collapsing down. But Cementoss is a very frustrating character to deal with. And the reasons, well, there's a few. I think one of the frustrating things is because of the lingering hitbox of the alpha. So if you hit someone with alpha, they get sent flying, right? It does some damage. The problem is that the hitbox of the alpha when it's being formed stays out for some time. Like have a look at this. And this is especially frustrating in situations where you're trying to challenge Cementoss on his tower. but then you get poked by the end of it and you get thrown off. And you know what? He's just able to spam out these alphas like crazy because he's got 7 ammo. And oh man, imagine fighting this man indoors. Well, all sorts of chaos can happen. Like, what are you meant to do about this, really? I appreciate some of the mechanics of it. Like, the cement isn't fully formed, it doesn't like fully overlap all the time, but they can't prevent it in all cases. But like, playing indoors is very disruptive. So what do I think they should do with Cementoss? Well, first of all, make him less spammy. I'd rather have them enhance the effect of the skill rather than giving him more ammo, just because it's really spammy and frustrating to deal with. We don't like spammy characters. I can go for ammo count as well as reload speed. Secondly, I think some of the mechanics with the cement needs to change, because it's very frustrating to have situations where the cement is clearly overlapping with things where it shouldn't be. If this block is in the wall, it should at least reposition to be somewhere where it does fit. And if you can't make it fit, then just make it explode. If I'm a Ochaco and I create a platform, do you know what happens? The platform breaks. Make Cementoss' objects do that too. Also, the durability of the blocks is very frustrating. I don't know what the health of each object is. Let's do a test. I'm gonna put a level 9 block there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 shots to destroy a cement block. And if it was a level 1 alpha, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the durability does vary a little bit, I guess. But I think that's a bit too doable, to be honest. Given how quickly he can just pump out new blocks, I don't think it should have that much health. Structure health in this game generally is not very fair. And of course, Cementoss has the dreaded instant revive skill. What I really like about this instant revive is that it encases them in cement, and you could keep them in a down state, but keep the box. You can then like defend your teammates while they're down. You can put like a lid on the cage. Boom, you're defended. You don't need to be revived. You'll get up by yourself in time. Like, he doesn't need an instant revive. This is fine. So I appreciate the general design and what Cementoss offers to this game, but I think the implementation is a bit bad, making Cementoss just an annoying matchup for any player. C+. Let's talk about another support character, shall we? Here we have Ibara. She's one to be feared, she does a lot of damage, and I honestly am not a fan. I'm not a big fan of her design, I'm not a big fan of her implementation, and I've got a few complaints. First of all, I think this damage is absolutely atrocious, in the sense of this is unreasonable. And don't even get me started on the Ibara bug. Well, just, here's a character with an instant revive skill. I hate those, and in fact, they gave her 2 of them. So you can do it twice, more instant revive. What's more, if you grab someone, your teammates are also able to contribute, which leads to a ridiculous amount of damage. Not only does she do a lot of damage on her alpha, but the range is also like really good. Like, how do you deal with that? She's just more effective than a sniper at this point. The knockbacks are incredibly disruptive, and I feel like that's what they were going for. Spider move is just like, you hit people, I guess, that go close to you. And the grab, people say if you ever get hit by this grab, it's your own fault. But I mean, you know, circumstances happen. People say that she's a bad character because she has to stand still when she's sniping people. But like, if you can aim, you can do this fine. There's not that much consequence to it. This character was not always this strong. She was slowly buffed over time because they could not get people to play her. And even now, with these ridiculous stats, people are still saying she's really bad. I think clearly the problem is not her strength. The problem is that the design is so bad, it's unfixable. This is the kind of design that you need to just destroy and start again from the beginning. So, it's time for the better. What can we do to revive Ibara? So here's some inspiration. Imagine that each vine is split into the head and the body. The body follows the head like a snake, and if the head makes contact with an enemy, then it causes a stagger. My idea is to first change the missile speed. Make it fast at the start, but slow at the end. By holding down the button, you make the attack last longer, but by tapping it, it's very short. If the head of the missile approaches the target, it starts to redirect towards them. While the body is out, if an opponent makes contact with it, then they also take some damage, because it's a spiky vine. This could be a way that Ibara can control the battlefield. I think it would be good to change Ibara's focus from like a long-range sniper support to more of an area control support. I like the way that the alpha operates where it fires all of the missiles together, and you can also apply this to the beta. As for the gamma, I think it would be a good idea to make it feel like a ranged projectile rather than needing to get into melee range. Similar to a character like Aizawa, you grab them from afar. Instead of pulling them in, it keeps them in that position while you do the whole grab animation. And then, an opponent can intercept it by attacking either Ibara or the cage. Also, while an opponent is grabbed, allies cannot attack the person being grabbed. The purpose of this skill is simply just to keep people out of the fight, while also giving the captured person's team an opportunity to rescue them. With the special action, I think it would be good to, instead of reviving them, it creates the cage around them, as it already does, but anyone that makes contact with the cage takes damage, and the cage has a certain amount of health that they need to bust through. Those are just my ideas of how Ibara could play, but also I'm just trying to change as little as possible. The core aspect of each attack is still there. So, overall, D tier. This character sucks and needs review. Kurogiri. We're training all the supports together, it seems. Here we have a support that focuses a lot more on utility and not damage. He got a very nice buff, so he gets more rewarded from direct hits, which is absolutely rewarding of skill. Very much appreciate that. And probably one of my favorite things, he has a revive skill that isn't a revive. It's just a teleport. And then you revive them manually. This is exactly what I would expect from other revive skills. But Kurogiri is very utility focused, and he also has a little bit of sauce. I'm very happy with the direction of this character. However, I don't like some of the portal mechanics. Whenever Kurogiri fires the portal, we have a particle effect that shows the direction of the portal. This is very nice. Unfortunately, I feel like it's a little bit difficult to see, especially if you're watching it from this angle. And when using the special action, it does not seem like there is any sort of particle effect that indicates his direction. If you're fighting someone, you get it down and they teleport away, you have absolutely no idea where they went. Even worse, Kurogiri can be extremely far away when he's reviving someone. This is effectively global range. With these two things in combination, there is essentially no counterplay. This is bad design. Every strength needs a weakness, every play needs a counterplay. You can't just have your cake and eat it. If Kurogiri is being pursued, he just needs to throw a few portals. I've barely used any ammo and I'm already on the other side of the map. You cannot catch me. This is also a problem. Why? Because there's no counterplay. You know how I don't like long combos? Well, Kurogiri absolutely has one of those, because all you have to do is press beta a few times, finish it off with a gamma, and that is what I like to call being put into the blender. You get stuck in this combo for so long, it does a bunch of damage, and you are completely helpless. A good combo would look something like this. That's a good amount of damage there. You don't need to put people into the blender for that. So what would make Kurogiri better? First of all, there needs to be a range limit on his special action. My opinion is that it's about the range of a level 4 beta, so about this range. And what's important is that you can clearly see the direction of the teleport. It's still pretty long range, but at least people can do something about it now. And of course, people can see the direction of the teleport so people know exactly where to start looking. Say you're playing Hawks or something, and exactly this situation happens where Kurogiri has pulled his teammate away. You know exactly where he's gone, you can just fly in that direction. And even if Kurogiri manages to get the revive off, chances are Hawks is going to find a very vulnerable Kurogiri and a very low health teammate. As for the combo, all you need to do is add some down power. 2 portals should do it. 150 down power normally, just make it at least 250 at minimum. Overall, I think Kurogiri is an excellent addition to the game, so I'm going to put him not quite into A tier, but high B. Next up, let's talk about Shinso. So Shinso is a recently released strike character, and he can do all sorts of fun combos. He can work pretty effectively mid-range and close range, and his combo routes work pretty well into each other. He has Gamma, which is pretty nice utility, which he can use in mid-combo as style points, I guess. He's very much a duelist character, very similar to Aizawa. And of course, he has versatility! As I say, I do not like long combos. And alpha into alpha is just plain annoying. Considering that he's doing all this damage at mid-range, he's not even getting into his effective range, which his beta excels at. Another problem I have with Shinso is his beta, particularly the movement, because he can go really far. I don't have much issue with the ability itself, my main issue is to do with the ammo it has. He gets free ammo at all levels. Why does he need that much? I think Shinso's ammo is generally more than he ever needs. Like 5 ammo on his alpha, like what's this for? So you can do the same combo on people several times over? Like, what is this? I do appreciate that you can use beta to jump into the sky and then do a hold beta to catch someone by surprise and then follow up with an alpha. So 2 ammo makes sense, but 3 is just pushing it. But also like double brainwash, like what is this really for? It's not a skill you can really spam. Yeah, these ammo costs are just a bit weird. The special action's cool though. Shinso also has a very unique property to his brainwash where it triples the amount of down power afflicted. I like that this is a thing. Like, it does show at least some consideration of the impact of down power. I find that when you're dropping someone from a height, it should have more impact, right? Because this doesn't do anything else different from a normal alpha. 63 damage there, do it again, 63 damage. I think it would be really cool if it did more damage based on the amount that you drop them. That would make it a aerial counter, and we do need more of those. I think that makes a lot more sense in the design. Also, my solution for the whole alpha into alpha problem is simply to make the second alpha exceed the amount of down power. Make it similar to how in an Aizawa combo, if you hit them again with the alpha, it just knocks them to the ground. It's that sort of effect. Overall for Shinso, I really like him. I think he's almost perfection, but I'm going to put him high B tier. It is time for Presentation Michael! I really like how creative this character works with the radio especially, because this isn't just like a normal beamer, this is a guy that beams from all directions. The affliction of tinnitus is kind of funny. It also combos into the gamma, we love combos. And this is the only character in the game that has fall off damage. I wish other characters did, but I guess that's just going to be extra points for Mike. As cool as I think he has a lot of very obvious issues. First of all, damage is generally just way too high. There's a reason why people are considering this character to being the strongest in the game right now. The tinnitus effect lasts a very long time and people don't much like it. It's kind of annoying. It's like actual tinnitus. Tinnitus IRL is not just a funny status effect. Also, being a beamer type character, it is very unusual that present Mike has 350 HP base. And his gamma has free ammo. Why does he have that much? I like the general idea of using it offensively. I like the idea of it having armor. Supposedly the yellow outline is kind of a lie. I was told that it's not actually real armor. Punch me! Yeah, it's fake armor. Speaking of armor, do you know what else he can do? Denied! Why is that a thing? Why can you tinnitus someone through armor? Also, why does he have so many radios? It's like, you break one, he just throws another one down. Like 1 or 2, I understand. 3, and now you're pushing it. Overall, I think the general idea behind Mike's design is pretty good, but I think they just overtuned him for no reason. Just generally reduce his damage, reduce some of his ammo so he's less spammy, and reduce his health to 300 HP, and we've got a cool character. B tier. And finally, the very last character we'll be looking at is Monoma. And to start off, I'm going to tell you his tier right away, and that is absolute clownery tier. This man is not just a clown, but the entire circus. How on earth did this character get released in this state? I like his gimmick. I like the idea of taking quirks from multiple people and then being able to use it in combination. I appreciate that he's using his own levels rather than having to get them off of other people. What I really don't appreciate is things like cooldown resets. We've had this since launch with Toga. Why have they not learned from it? This is the most ridiculous thing. How on earth did this ever get past the early stages? But wait, there's more. Monoma's gimmick for getting abilities is simply just to hit them, and his means of doing so is ridiculously easy. It doesn't matter that I'm doing 13 damage per hit, because I'm now your attack, and now I'm hitting you for way more. So this range is kind of just ridiculous. Like, you'd expect it to be like Momo Alpha range, but why can he hit you from this far away? And you like bugs? Check this shit out. I now have Kirishima Beta without even hitting him with it. And Monoma's Gamma gives him invincibility for several seconds. It doesn't work in training mode because of course it doesn't, but generally I don't understand why they implement it in this way. Like, straight up invincibility is just dumb. I find that his beta is like unusually floaty. Like, you'd expect this to be like a dive attack when attacking someone on the offensive, but why can he use it to gain like so much distance? Like, I'd expect it to be this sort of range. Like, what is this? Especially given, you know, his cooldown resets, he can go anywhere. This is beyond rapid movement. This is just abuse. Like, how on earth did this happen? And before we continue, I would like us to go back to the tier list and have a look at where all of these characters are placed. And think about how many stupid, broken skills in this game there are, because they haven't properly balanced them. Now consider that Monoma can do anything with any ability. Think of all the crazy touch of deaths he can do. Like, imagine getting hit by something like this. Just, what even is this game? What is this video game? It's so incomprehensible how this happened. But on the bright side, Monoma is surely going to be the fixer. As soon as they see how broken, how busted all of these different combinations and abilities are, surely it'll be addressed. Surely they'll figure out cooldown resets. Surely they'll balance each of these moves individually. Surely they'll get rid of animation speed increases. Surely, surely, surely! Because if they don't, who knows what will happen to this game. Monoma is the fixer or the bringer of death. Your choice. Monoma has problems, but they are fixable problems. At some step along the way, they seem to have become very misguided. There is a really fun character in here that can still be redeemed. I mean, it's going to take a lot longer to fix all of the, you know, combinations of quirks, mechanics and all that, but there are some very simple fixes for Monoma. He's still going to be super strong, but he might not be game-breakingly strong. So let's go over some potential improvements. When it comes to acquiring abilities, I think it should be a difficult challenge for Monoma. He should not be able to freely access abilities. Every single time he wants to get a new ability, he needs to put himself in harm's way. He needs to get close enough for his alpha to hit. He needs to get really close for his beta to hit. And if he wants to get his gamma up, he needs to endure some damage. As the game is, that is simply not the case. So looking at the alpha range, let's make this about Momo range. So, you know, like that. Next, I don't like the way that the gamma works. I feel like it's way too floaty. It's like he's playing as Ochaco or something. He's got zero gravity on. I would just simply like make him dive forward and then maybe like just like stop abruptly. I really like that roll transition. Like, that's really cool. Like, oh my god, that's really cool. Look at that. I'd say make Gamma not invincible, just tougher. So very similar to the Kirishima change I mentioned earlier about taking damage to make his special action be reduced, I'd say take most of those properties and apply it to this Gamma. So while it's active, you take reduced damage, not invincibility, and as you take more damage, that percentage goes lower and lower. In other words, Monoma doesn't simply get an ability for free, he's gonna have to endure a foot to the face. A major mechanic I would say about using abilities is that once you've activated these abilities, the special action gauge starts going down. This is very slow. I would say from 100% to 0% should take, let's say 20 to 30 seconds. I don't even know what this is, but it is way too long. He can deactivate it early and save some gauge, but if at any point he turns off his special action, all of the abilities he currently has are gone, meaning he has to obtain them again. He has to get up close to slap someone, he has to dive into them to hit a beta, and he has to do another foot to the face. He does not simply get to keep abilities for the entire game. And in the case where he can take abilities from teammates, well, he's gonna have to stay close to his team to do that. He can't just simply go off on his own. But you know, you won't be able to use your teammates' abilities to get that far because, well, let's say I have a teammate, Iida, and I use his Recipro to get up to someone, and I go up and I slap them, like so. I no longer have Recipro available. I may have Momo's quirk now, but I no longer have Recipro. You see what I mean? So getting the perfect combination is now going to be a massive challenge. I believe this is what they refer to as friction, the challenge in making the things work. Like, yeah, maybe it's another power fantasy character, but it is not going to be a cheap cost. There's going to be friction that you need to overcome in order to get the results that you want. No one's going to give up their powers for free, and if they see you getting too close, well, you're just going to get punished to death. And that is how I think they can fix Monoma. I mean, rebalancing everything in general is going to be a lot of work, but for the most part, Monoma is salvageable. This could have been a really good release, but instead, we got this absolute monstrosity. So maybe they'll fix it at some point in the future. We'll have to see what they do. I think we're going to have to wait for another ROM update, which could be next season. They can at least reduce the duration. That should be possible through Master Data Update. And so we come to the end of this video. This has been a long one, and the timing of the release was not quite what I would have liked. But I've got other commitments. In conclusion, Ultra Rumble has a lot of really cool and creative designs, but not everything feels fun and fair. There are also many times more implementation problems like bad balance. I can't always chalk something up to either design or implementation, which is why we've sort of blended them together for this. Looking at the final tier list, there's only a few characters that I would comfortably put into A tier. If you're a developer, anything below A tier should not be good enough. And that's where the vast majority of characters are. So there's a lot of things that need to change. Hopefully my feedback is able to reach the team making the game, and they see where I'm coming from. You the viewer, please be sure to put your own thoughts in the comments. I'd much prefer your own takes rather than commenting on my own. I just feel like that's generally more productive, so please do keep that in mind. I'm gonna go take my life back, and I'll see you in another video. Bye bye!